This is Darth Matthew, host of the Star Wars Generations and Superhero Ethics podcast, and I find your lack of membership disturbing. You can free yourself from the ads of those rebel scum by going to theethicalpanda.com and clicking join for $5 a month, $55 a year. No more ads, only the episodes, just as the Emperor intended.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Generations podcast. Today is myself, Matthew, along with co-host Erin, talking about episode 1 of Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi. And Erin, I want to start us off right away by asking, would you give your name to a dictator?
Fuck no. I wouldn't give my name to nobody. I don't give my name to a person on the street like that. Oh, God, no. She's like, I'm Kara. La Kara. I was like, first and last, bitch, that's the same as Odysseus telling the Cyclops his home address. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, come on.
I liked it. I it was one of those lines that felt like, so for those who haven't seen it, by the way, we are talking about the first episode of The Ninth Jedi. It is, I think this is going to be a very good show, and I definitely recommend people check it out. I'm a little sad that it's not getting more attention, and we'll talk about that as part of our discussion. I'll admit off the front that I didn't love this first episode necessarily, but I do think people should watch it, check it out. Hopefully hit pause before that, but we will be doing massive spoilers of that whole first episode. But if you haven't seen it, you want to know what the hell we're talking about, it's because at the end, there's a moment where one of our kind of heroes goes to confront Darth Vader 2.0, the leader of the evil army, at least as we're told. We're going to get a reveal that's going to say more about that. And when the guy asks his name before they fight to the death, he says, I will not give my name to a tyrant. And I'm with you on the sort of like, keep some information private. This is clearly someone who will go after your family. They'll go after your pets. They will go after like the mailman in your city. Like, don't give them that info. And I love a cool, like, F you to tyranny line. But I will not give my name to a tyrant. I don't know. It just struck me as kind of like a try hard moment. What did you think?
Oh, really? I don't know. No, I could see that actually, especially for like how hard that guy flopped. Yeah, that felt very like try hard.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting way more of him based on his aura. And then
yeah,
brother immediately got stabbed. Like, how fucking dumb are you to run directly at somebody with a lightsaber? And you don't have a lightsaber. Like, how, like, genuinely, not to be rude, how dumb can you possibly be? I can see it as like a bit of a try hard moment. I feel like they were using that as like the classic trope of like, oh, let's introduce like a character that seems like they could have some sort of power or some sort of respect on their name, and then let's have the bad guy kill them to emphasize just how bad this guy is. That's kind of how it felt to me, was like demonstrating to the character Ethan just the lengths that Geno Igaki, I think, Ikagi. I wrote down the spelling. I just am not sure on the pronunciation.
So this was actually General Nawaam.
Oh shit, you're right. Yeah, it was Nawaam.
General Nawaam.
You're
the
right.
guy you're talking about is like the general of his army. This is Nawaam, who's kind of the leader of this group. And we'll get to them. Let me kind of just jump back into the start of the show, though. Mm-hmm. First of all, I think they do what they can to kind of help people who haven't seen the first 2 episodes from the episodes of Star Wars Visions that this is a continuation of. But if you haven't seen those, I recommend watching them. They're very good. If you haven't, I definitely recommend checking out the podcast episode that we did just last week. But, just quick refresher for everybody. We are this is a time when we are told that the Jedi and the Sith have been long forgotten. That they pretty much entirely died out, that they're tiny little remnants, that this guy who is the father of La Kara, our main character, that he has decided to start rebuilding lightsabers in an attempt to bring people together to rebuild the Jedi. When they do this, they find out that there's another group that's trying to rebuild the Sith. They steal some of the lightsabers. They kidnap the father and are theoretically forcing him to make sabers, and are now trying to hunt down this group of, nascent Jedi led by Margrave Juro. And we've got Margrave Juro, we've got La Kara, and we're kind of thrown into this adventure where, in a theme that I think is kind of prevalent throughout this first episode, and was something I didn't love, but I get, some repetition's going to happen. There's a lot of themes that we've seen in Star Wars before. And so one of them here is being chased through hyperspace. And there's kind of a fun gimmick of jumping close to a black hole, so that and their ship is smaller and can get away more easily. But eventually they get to this planet ruled by a guy who apparently used to be connected to the Jedi. And they're being hunted there. And that's kind of where our main plot happens. And there's fights, including with the general who you were just talking about, who I believe is General Genoa. Or Genoa. I will say that this is originally, I believe it was written originally in Japanese, but then translated in English and then dubbed, recorded in both English and Japanese. I've seen some arguments saying that it's better to watch it in Japanese with the subtitles. My ADHD makes that pretty much impossible, which is why I listen to the English, and I think you're the same. But certainly if others are finding it that way, please let us know. And also, if for Japanese speakers, if that line about, I don't give my name to tyrants works better in Japanese, please let us know. But we get it first to where I first started to kind of like cock an eyebrow at the show, which is that we started out with this idea that I thought I really loved, and was kind of like, way back, I wanted the prequels to be, because I thought it was what the original trilogy set up of like the Jedi are gone. Like they are forgotten. Like they are kind of like what the Knights Templar are to us today, something that is like maybe remembered in history books, but is thought of as long gone, generations, hundreds of years back. And now immediately we meet this guy who was a Jedi long ago. And maybe if you kind of squint, the idea is that he's someone who, like the Margrave, was also kind of sort of trained by some like one rogue person out in the middle of nowhere. But it felt to me like what they were kind of saying is this is actually more like the prequels, where when we say the Jedi and Sith are almost gone, we mean most of them have been killed in the last 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't really love that. What was your take on that?
I feel like in the Visions episodes, it was left kind of up to interpretation. Like a lot of Visions is vague on things that people try to specify just because, they're not trying to interfere with too much canon.
Right.
But I kind of, watching the original Visions episodes, I got the understanding that like the biggest problem here is not that there's no one who has the ability to be a Jedi or the want, the drive, same thing with Sith. They just don't have the weapons that set them so far apart from everyone else when it comes to combat.
Yeah.
It's like, my kind of understanding was that it's the lightsabers that are the big thing that's missing. And it's like, yeah, there are maybe some people around who used to be Jedi, but now without the power of the lightsabers, they have to find something else to do. So that aspect didn't bother me as much because I hadn't headcanoned to myself that it's been thousands of years since then. I thought over it, but I didn't really put anything specific on it. Really so that didn't bother me. But I can understand where it's like, you're like, dude, this is the second time that I thought the Jedi and Sith were gone and now they're still there.
Yeah. And I think that would only make sense. And I could totally see something where like the Jedi teachings are still around, but no one's made the lightsabers forever and ever. But when this guy who's the governor like is given a lightsaber by Margrave Juro, he knows how to use it. And maybe that's because people training with sticks or something, but it certainly felt like he had used one before in his past, so that the death of lightsaber making was kind of recent. Anyway, listeners, if you were bothered by it, let us know. If this is just me being an old fogey, then, well, a fat old fogey got to be a good fighter in this, so I'm kind of standing up for the fat old fogies today. So, but yeah, so that's kind of my gripe. I thought it felt a little more childish than the Visions episodes. But other than that, I definitely did like it. Like, I thought, again, the animation's gorgeous. I like the character work. I like the voice acting work. The Gramps is being played by, voice acted in English at least, by J.P. Kerouac, who also played Morph on the X-Men show that came out and was a guest on this podcast. So I'm really hoping I'll be able to bring them back, but I heard their voice on this and was like really excited to have them. So that's really awesome. What about you? What stuff did you like? What stuff did you not like? How'd you feel about it?
Yeah. I have to say, I think it's hilarious that it's the two of us conversating about this, and we're the two on the podcast that are known for not being overly interested or passionate about anime. Like, I think Alex would have a lot more input as to the art style or how it may hold up compared to other things. I don't know. This is so hard. I struggle to know what's an internal bias and what's like actually a difference. Because I feel like, and maybe it is that this feels more childish, or not childish, but more directed towards children than the Visions episodes. Maybe that's what I'm kind of bumping into. But I feel like from the small exposure I've had to anime, oftentimes female characters are a bit infantilized and just have like the really high pitched voice and like the ooh, ah. And I caught a little bit of that with Kara, but I understand she's supposed to be a child, so obviously she has a high pitched voice. But it's not my preferred type of media, I guess would be the best way to say it. Like,
that's fair.
I think if you put Kara and Ahsoka up to each other, they're probably pretty similar. It's just Ahsoka feels more grounded because she talks and reacts more similarly to how I do.
Right.
And I don't feel like I relate as much to Kara.
I think Ahsoka is definitely a post-pubescent teenager, even when we meet her. She's young, she's like 14 or so, but I think Kara is supposed to be like 9 or 10. So
yeah.
And it's funny, we were just talking on Superhero Ethics about the most recent Avatar thing that came out, Avatar Aang, The Last Airbender. And one thing we talked about was that how those original characters were kind of like, that was part of the difference, is that Aang is seeming like prepubescent, just going through puberty, whereas the others are only a couple years older than him, but are post-pubescent. And that, you know, at that age, like the difference between like 11 and 13 is a lot bigger than like 16 and 18. 16 and 18 is still a big difference, to be sure, but like that kind of post-pubescent, prepubescent, whatever. Not that everyone has puberty at the same age, but you know what I mean?
No, I understand.
So yeah, and I really get that. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, like 5 years when you're under the age of 20 feels way longer than 5 years when you're over the age of 40, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Like you go through so much more change and difference in life. Like you're growing up versus being hypothetically more settled into what you want your life to be. Yeah. So that makes total sense.
Is 5 years a third of your life, or is it an eighth of your life? You know, it's
exactly, yeah.
Difference. Yeah, and I can totally get that. I think it is not. We did a whole episode on anime a while back with former co-host Riki, and had a lot of great things to say about that. And I think there are a lot of tropes involving kids of all genders, but definitely there are some of the ones you're talking about with women. There's a lot of anime where I know women tend to either be kind of like young girl type roles that you're talking about, or very femme fatale, and not very much in between. Yeah. I think Visions has gone past that in a lot of its ways, so I don't think there's going to be too much of that. I imagine we're going to get a bunch of other great female characters, but yeah, I can see why I don't mind her, but she hasn't grabbed me as a character. Like right now, I think Margaret is the one I'm the most interested in.
No, I think
go ahead.
What you said kind of reminded me or made me think, like, I think, the quote unquote complaints are just like things that aren't really vibing with me are probably just because it's reminding me of another thing a little bit. And I don't have really any experience with like anime that's not like my cousin and his friends were watching it and we were like, oh, LOL. And then they're like rough sex on the screen. And we're like, he's like, okay, my cousin's sitting here. We're going to watch something else. And I was like, I'm never watching anime.
That's fair.
So I think maybe I'm just like really scared that anime is going to go downhill and be something I don't want it to be. And I should have more trust, because obviously Disney's not going to put out anything similar to what I just described.
Yeah. I mean, I think even I know there's an awful lot of anime that's pretty damn horny, but there's still a pretty clear distinct, like that was from what you're talking about, it sounds like someone was showing you hentai, or like, you know, there is even in anime worlds a distinction of like porn. And we're pro porn, pro sex work type stuff here, but like that's not necessarily what you want to watch when you're a kid with your family. So yeah, I get that. That's clearly not where this is going to go, but I get you. It's not an art form that I think for either one of us is like, oh, I'm super excited about this art form.
Yeah.
And I do think it's very, you know, a lot of people have been critical of Disney for their marketing strategies. I don't think this is being marketed well at all. when I open up the Disney page, I just scroll down to find it on the literal day it's being released. But I think probably of the biggest marketing failures, Alex is the anime guy on our podcast, and they released this while he's moving. So come on, guys, get your shit together. We'll definitely get Alex in, though, for a later episode, because I think he's going to be a voice that will really have a lot to say about this. All that being said, though, I want to talk about the character who I thought at first was like I was going to be really kind of bored by, and then there's a big reveal in the last few minutes, and I was like, oh, okay, now I'm here for this. So I hope most of you have seen this, but again, if you really haven't, you really just want to kind of follow along with us, fair enough. We have this leader named Nawaam, and he is kind of the leader of this group, and I referred to him earlier as Darth Vader 2.0. And there are, I think, a number of tropes in this that felt like we've seen them before. There was the, as I said, there was being tracked through hyperspace. There was a whole bunch of drones of robots that, a whole bunch of droids where if you knock out their central control in the main ship, they stop functioning. We've seen that before. Some of those droids kind of had like a ball type shape and weapons and moving on their hands. There was no shield, but they looked an awful lot like droidicas. And then we have this guy who's dressed all in black and has a metallic helmet and speaks with a kind of metallic-y voice, not the band, the metal. And a metallic voice would be awesome. But and seems pretty evil McEvil pants. Mm-hmm. And he's certainly driving this army to want to conquer everybody and all this stuff. And so we hear that like he has issued this challenge that if anyone can defeat him in a fight, that they will get to take over his army. And a couple of the people connected to our heroes have gone to kind of spy on this group and figure out what's going on and see like, well, can we just take them down this easily? Mm-hmm. And so this one guy kind of gets kind of caught doing this and then winds up issuing the challenge saying, I'll fight you. And Nawaam pulls out a lightsaber, and the lightsaber is blue. And at first you might be like, well, General Grievous had blue lightsabers and green lightsabers. He could have just stolen it. But one thing that had been established is that these new brand of lightsabers that have been built, and as far as we know, these are the only ones in the galaxy. Everyone who has one, Sith or Jedi or anyone, is using one of them. That they change color because they can kind of like sense the mood, sense the connection to the Force that the person using them has. And in one of those episodes from Visions, we saw they will turn red in the hands of evil people, and thus you know who they are. And his didn't. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of implications we could draw from it, but I think it's pretty wide open, and I'm pretty curious about it. What was kind of your thought on seeing that?
I wasn't sure. Like the character Ethan, said like the lightsaber's blue. Like, is he a Jedi or something along those lines? And I was sitting there and I was like, thinking, wheels turning, and I'm like, yes, I do believe that's what they want us to think, because they have established like the only Jedi maker or saber smith currently available is making lightsabers that are in tune with the Force, channeling through the person who's using them, and can change color based on that person's morality or where they're drawing power from. So yeah, I think it's like, no, this could be really interesting, because it seems like an easy, maybe he somehow found an old lightsaber, maybe, you never know, it's possible. Or what would be so much more interesting is like if he's like Dooku, if Dooku stayed with the Jedi, ? No, that doesn't quite line up. But like the idea of someone who still believes they're a Jedi, he's like, no, like doesn't identify with the word Jedi because he's actively hunting down Jedi, but still believes they are in the right, that what they are doing will bring peace and goodness into the world. And yet they are so lost in doing so that they're actually a tyrant and like a killer. And that would make the character so very interesting if he somehow truly believes that he's in the right and is drawing from the light side of the Force. Then I'm like, I have a lot of questions. That would be very interesting. So I'm intrigued to see what the rest of the series brings. But yeah, it didn't strike me as like a big thing right away. I was like, meh, we could explain it away and have this be a cliffhanger for the first episode and then kind of brush it under the rug. But then I thought about it a little harder and I was like, oh, this could be one of the most interesting villains we've had in a long time. What were your thoughts?
I think similar. I think without necessarily that first part, I think I kind of came to the first part later. My first thought was, okay, if I'm going to take the idea of the universe that they've told us that this is what lightsabers do, then this means that this person is either not fully Sith or not fully on the dark side. And those are two distinctly different things. And I think that's part of what we'll explore. I then did have some of the thoughts of like, well, maybe this is just an old lightsaber, or maybe the lightsaber smith, who we found out is actually also an old, very powerful Jedi. Because it does seem to me we're once again doing the thing of like, there are no more Jedi left except this one and that one and that one and that one and that one, etc.
Also, you know, fair your enough. Dad, Jedi. Like,
yeah. I think I'm just bitter about that because of it's happened before, but
and that's fair enough.
Yeah. But I do want to think it's kind of what you're talking about. And I think it's important to recognize here, this has been officially designated as a non-canonical story. And there's some rumors that it's because it is set hundreds or even thousands of years in the future. There are some interpretations, like I said, that this is like a fictional story written by people in the Star Wars universe. Mm-hmm. I think at some point they may attempt to make it canonical or to very clearly make it non. But for the moment, I think it allows them to explore some stuff. And, you know, I am not someone who loves the term Gray Jedi. And I think that I have a lot of issues with the way that term is often thought of. But I do think that there's a really interesting world to explore beyond what I would call the absolutes of light side and dark side. And that there's some room in there. And I think you brought up Dooku, who I think at some point thought, you know, and especially in that book that we love to talk about, Darth Plagueis, he loves to talk about the idea of like, you know, in that book, he still thinks he's on the light side, but that maybe some dark side powers can be used for good. Mm-hmm. I think the show Rebels explored this with Ezra kind of flirting with the holocron, the Sith holocron, and like, you know, mind controlling the people driving an ATST and knocking them off a cliff, and it not turning him fully to the dark side. So yeah, I'd be really curious to see if they're going to explore something, especially because we haven't really everything we know of him is from the point of view of our heroes, the ones who are our heroes now. And he doesn't look great. I mean, he's definitely they say he's conquering worlds. They say that he's doing the stuff, but like, we haven't seen them like mowing down civilians. We haven't seen them like, we don't know why they're doing this. And I don't think they're going to come out being heroic, but I wonder if like, you know, kind of like Thrawn in some of the later books where it's like, it's not that I love the Empire, it's that I think the Empire is needed against this much bigger threat. I could see a world where Nawaam has some of that kind of thing like you're talking about, where he's not just Palpatine saying ultimate power. He has a reason why he believes he's the hero, and that makes his and that there's some validity to it that makes his morality complicated.
I'm also interested to see what goes on with Kara's dad, because the commander Igaki told Kara when they were fighting, like, oh, so your dad's the sabersmith. He's been collaborating with us. And she's like, oh my God, my dad's a bad guy. But it's very easy to be like, okay, they're obviously lying. But then we did see a conversation between Kara's father, and I believe it was Nawaam, the leader. Yeah. Where he certainly doesn't seem to think he's currently in active danger. He doesn't look like he's afraid for his life. I wouldn't necessarily say that he looks super participative, but he almost like jokes back and forth with Nawaam. Like Nawaam's like, oh, like everyone thinks you're a sabersmith, not like one of the most powerful Jedi ever. And he's like, people remember. I don't remember exactly what his response was. Yeah. But they were conversing very casually, that I was like, I feel like if I was being held against my will and forced to make weapons for the enemy, I maybe wouldn't be yapping with them like that. So I'm curious if there is something to her father maybe having some like mixed motivation.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that because, you know, there is a set of bars between them. Like, I do think he's definitely in a prison type thing.
Oh, I was making tuna. So my eyes were not 100% glued to the screen the whole time. So thank you for filling me in on that.
Maybe it was something I misunderstood, but it certainly looked to me like he was in prison. And it felt to me like the way they were talking was kind of a little bit trash talky. Like, because he was saying like, well, because my daughter's going to be pretty kick ass. She's going to give you, because the guy was saying like, yeah, your daughter, screwed over my general. And he was like, well, yeah, it's my daughter's. And so, yeah, I feel like they are not like, there's not a lightsaber to his throat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's actively helping them. I think there is, it's a different kind of situation, but I wonder if it's a kind of like a Galen Erso situation where, like, to an outsider, he could well look like he's collaborating, but there's a reason, like, maybe, and I don't know if all those lightsabers he's making for them are going to self-destruct, or if it's really like he thinks that both sides need lightsabers because the Jedi, you need the Sith to help rebuild the Jedi. I don't know. I think certainly is an open question, and I'm really curious how the show will explore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'd kind of forgotten about the comeback her father had about like, well, she had a pretty powerful teacher, so what do you expect? She's gonna rock your shit. So yeah, I kind of take back what I said. I feel like they were not necessarily hinting at him possibly having mixed motivations. But it would still be interesting. We often see people's minds change in captivity or, desperation driving people to something. So I wonder if now that Nawaam knows that Kara is actively looking for her dad, he's going to spin some lies to manipulate her father about her.
I think it's certainly possible. So, yeah, I think overall kind of maybe not our favorite, but enough interesting questions and interesting possibilities that we're definitely excited to watch the rest and keep talking about it.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. It's like so many things. I feel like Star Wars, especially like the first 1 to 3 episodes of an animated show can be tough to get through. And I'm saying that mostly about the Clone Wars, a little bit about Rebels as well. Bad Batch hit it hard and heavy from the get-go. They started with Order 66.
I think Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the best TV shows I've ever seen, let alone just best animated. And the first couple episodes of that are pretty rough. So yeah, it always finds time. And that's, Star Trek: The Next Generation is a great show. First episode's great. Second, third episodes are pretty bad. So
not as much.
So
yeah, everyone. Just like we are, even if this isn't your thing, hang in there, watch the whole season.
Thank you. And let us know, what do you want to talk about? Do you have questions you want us to explore? Guests you want us to try and bring on? We're definitely going to try and get JP on. We will definitely make sure we have Alex on for the next episode, or at least one of the next episodes about this show. He's just going through a lot right now with moving and stuff like that. But let us know what you think. Let us know what your thoughts. Of course, please check out all the other awesome things that are happening on theethicalpanda.com and truestory.com. That's where all the other awesome podcasts that I'm on. Erin's been a guest on some of them. Paul's been a guest. Great stuff happening all over that podcast network. So on behalf of myself and Erin and Alex and all the wonderful people here, thank you so much. We have spoken.
Don't be reckless.